Hey everybody, Kendra and Jay McKeever here again from Cloud Next Level. We are coming to you today with another topic that has come up in our kind of 2-year anniversary we're approaching in the Salesforce consulting space. So we wanted to share with you what we see going on out there and some tips to address it. This particular topic is that of data quality. So do you feel like you are kind of drowning in bad data with your CRM? If so, you're not alone. This happens a lot out there. So we're going to talk about some of the things that lead to that. So Jay, just kind of the first couple things that come to mind as we've started to engage with clients, there are a number of different scenarios that seem to lend themselves to this problem. And I'd love to get your thoughts on it. So the first that comes to mind for me is if somebody has just recently moved on to a CRM platform, Salesforce for us, and they think, okay, we're going to import all the data that we have. We're not going to clean it up right now. We don't have time for that. We'll get to clean up later, right? But later kind of never comes, does it?
Right.
It's sort of one of those projects that keeps getting pushed to the back burner, and so it just sort of compounds on itself. Another scenario is maybe you are migrating or merging even systems. You know, perhaps there's been a business merger acquisition, and so you're combining systems. And so now you end up with perhaps a lot of duplicate records or almost duplicate but conflicting records. And how do you go through and sort through all that? A third example that comes to mind, and I know you have a lot of experience with this one, is let's say you have in your marketing efforts purchased some lists over the years, but that data doesn't stay fresh and accurate forever, does it?
Not at all. Not at all. So, you know, in terms of what you're saying, you're absolutely correct. In my experience, first of all, no one has perfect data. There's always data issues, no matter how hard you try, because data tends to go bad faster than you have time to keep up with it. But there are some ways that you can mitigate that, and we'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute. But back to some of the problems that compound. If you have several different databases and you're going to merge them all into one, my recommendation is just say no. Get them right before you get them together, because when you add bad data on top of bad data, bad things happen. Something as simple as if you've got a lot of bad data and you send a lot of emails, you're going to wind up being considered a spammer, because the spam filters look for things like that. So word to the wise, just say no. It's commonplace. You know, in marketing, we would buy lists. I'd buy a list from you know, Dun & Bradstreet. I'd buy a list from Hoover's. I'd buy a list from USA. List Info, USA, whatever. And we would do that. We just keep adding and adding and adding and adding. And heaven forbid we would buy a list from a non-reputable vendor, then you're even in larger muddy waters there. But it's just not a good idea. So we'll talk a little bit more here about how you can attempt to clean up bad data. And Kendra, I'll let you go ahead and take off first.
Yeah, and you know, this causes pain in a number of ways, right? So a lot of people invest in Salesforce or another CRM so that their executives can have a clear view into how their business is doing, how their sales teams are performing, or their marketing teams or service teams, whatever their use case is. But if they can't trust the data that's coming through and being bubbled up to them, that's a real problem. Why would you continue to invest in that? Additionally, for the teams that are actually using the system, the sales team or service team or marketing team, if they are having to just kind of sift through all of this junk data, they very quickly get frustrated and say, you know what, this is just hindering my performance. I can't do my job, so I'm going to avoid it as much as possible. So there are real reasons why it's important to address this issue. So let's talk about some of the tips that we have on how to do that. Do you want to start off with some things we've seen work well for clients?
Happy to, but my first tip is what not to do. A lot of companies say, okay, my data is bad. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and hire 5 temps, and they're going to come in and clean my data. Or even worse, I'm going to hire some interns. I'm going to get a whole bunch of interns, and they're going to clean up my data. Bad idea. Human error is what got you into that place in the first place. Human error of buying and throwing in a bunch of lists, but also in manual entry of data. So avoid that. So then what do? Well, there are list appending services out there. Some of the list providers I mentioned also offer appending services, and they'll take fresh data, apply it against the data in your database, give you the greatest version of truth. It's expensive, but it's not, well, it's a solution. I'll say that. You have to determine whether the cost is right for your company or not, but they work. It's a good source.
Right?
Yeah. And then we talked in a prior video about RPA, robotic processing automation. These are a little bit less expensive over time than a list appender would be. And the reason is over time, you make the expense one time and then you use it year after year after year. And those bots can be programmed to automatically go into your system and do whatever you want them to do to keep your data intact. Now, programming is not a developer necessarily. It's just someone to go in and change some of the settings on it. So it doesn't take a developer to use an RPA system. Highly recommend one of those. Kendra, what do you see?
Yeah, and just to kind of round out on the RPA piece, so we've been working with our friends at SALIX Data, and I'll link to them here. And as we've been learning more about this, I mean, the cost of entry to starting to use these bots is not extraordinary. So
No.
I'll let them handle the exact pricing, but my understanding is that for somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000, you can get, one of these bots up and going, and it runs 24/7, depending on what you ask it to do. So it very quickly pays itself back. So it's not as intimidating as it might sound at the surface.
Right. And the thing about RPAs is no human error.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So another tool that we have found to be tremendously helpful is called they just changed their name. It used to be Enabler for Excel. Now it's called Excel Connector. It's an app on the App Exchange, and it is super inexpensive and a tremendous lifesaver. We are not affiliated with them. We don't get paid for saying this. Laura Eaton, our Director of Customer Success, should get paid because she has sent countless clients to them. But literally, it changes people's lives. So what it does is if your team is used to working in Excel, which most folks are, it has a great interface that you can easily pull reports or data from Salesforce in any format up directly to Excel, work with up to 1 million records to edit them, work with formulas, whatever it is you would normally do in Excel, and then you're able to, insert, edit, delete, upsert from, between the applications. So sorry about that. It is a tremendous lifesaver. So again, this is something that we have brought to many of our clients, and they have all just been over the moon happy with it. So go check them out. We don't get paid for it, but we want to share that tip because it really is a powerful one. So, and kind of rounding out the conversation, it's always a big topic, right? Data quality, it's not a simple issue if you've had it snowballing for years, and it's not a one and done type thing. But as you're thinking about your Salesforce strategy, your ongoing maintenance of it, it is absolutely something that needs to be part of the conversation. It brings real costs also from a storage perspective, both with Salesforce or any other storage mechanism that you're using. So it's something that we would highly recommend you keep in the front of your mind as you're thinking about your CRM. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. Well, don't put off for tomorrow what you should be doing today with your data. Very simple, plain and simple.
So with that, thank you for taking the time to listen. Happy holidays and happy selling.
Take care, all.
Bye.